I was having a rather interesting conversation today with someone. This particular individual told me that, he has a circle of about 10, it's like 10 or 12 male friends that he went to college with. So he's known these people for like 10 years. And basically, he was telling me that mm, maybe half of his circle of friends, majority of whom are black, don't date black women. So y'all know me. I was like, hold up. You guys know I'm so pro black. So I was like, so wait, I'm always interested in finding out, when people have their preferences. I'm always interested in hearing and finding out why it is that, you know, you don't date whatever race um it is. And I'm always intrigued when black people say they don't date other black people, when white people say they don't date other white people, when Asians say, I had a friend who is Chinese and he said he doesn't date Chinese girls because they remind him of his mom. I thought that was interesting. So I asked this individual, I said, well, why don't your friends, date black women? If you could kind of basically attribute it to one thing, what would you attribute it to? What is the number one reason as to why your friends do not date black women? And he said, the number one reason has to be their attitude, our attitude. I'm just playing. We've all heard this before. This isn't new. This isn't, anything new. That's like the recurring theme. I would say like top three reasons as to why black men, things I've heard as to why black men refuse to date black women. Attitude, that we're too independent, as you guys have seen, may or may not have seen. I made videos about this. We're too independent. Um, our attitude, and yeah, I would actually say it's those two things. We have this "I don't need a man" type of attitude, which is what is keeping us single.
Welcome back to the channel. And I found this video from, she says Jay Nice. It looks like Janice to me, but Janice Gassam Asare. I think that is how you say her full name, but she also has it on the screen. So, you guys can see that as well. I do try to keep, people's copyrights on the screen if, they actually do put that up there. And so I thought this was interesting. She's basically saying why black men don't date black women. So if you've been tracking with me, and what you see on the screen is I'm all about marriage. So we have to understand where we have problems within the sexes, the genders, both genders, basically, and find out, okay, why would men say I'm not going to date, this group of people? Or why would women say I'm not going to date this group of people? And so she's already starting it out with two things. She says it's attitude, and then she says it's independence, which honestly, you could almost say they kind of go together because they kind of work together for, toward a norm. And I believe, like I said, I just did a video and it was talking about the whole movement away from marriage. And the fact that in the, back in the day, talking about like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and that whole fourth wave of feminism and how it kind of came in and encouraged women, to do things on their own. And it seems as though black women kind of took this and ran with it, where a lot of the other races weren't as quick, to jump on it. And in that video, when I talked about it, I said, I can't go into detail because that particular lady was trying to blame it 100% on feminism. But I actually believe that feminism was really just kind of the boat that carried, the original problem. It was like the carrier to the original problem. Because one of the things that we don't really talk about a lot is that black men could not protect black women until about the 1970s. All right. So you have to think about a person fully grown, so this would be a person that was born probably in the 50s. if not the 40s, because they'd be getting married in the 70s. And it wasn't until that time that black men could actually protect black women. And what do I mean by this? Well, the number one enemy to black people at that time, okay, again, we got to be a little historical, but at that time was actually white men. Okay, that was actually the number one enemy because a black man could be married to a black woman, and then a white man, depending upon his power and his situation, he could come in, rape the black woman, and there was really not much that the husband could do. Because if he did any kind of lashing out, if he tried to go grab revenge, then the community would protect the young white kid that really didn't know what he was doing. And oh, he one of ours, and we got to watch over him and protect him and blah, blah, blah. And so it put the black man in a situation where unless he was living in an almost 100% black community and that he was isolating, his wife from a lot of the people that would hurt her, he really couldn't protect her. And that goes into the psyche of the woman, because the psyche of the woman is looking for, like I say, three things: that protector, that provider, and that leader. And while the man might have been able to provide and he might have been able to lead, he couldn't protect. One full thing was missing, right? And so once we really start to notice that was the 70s, that men started to go into that. And even once that power, was given to them, they had to adjust their minds. Because before, they really couldn't even stand on things. So now they were looking at their parents that never could do it. And now they have this new power. But what does that really mean? And how does that look? So we have to think about it from that perspective. So now here comes the feminist movement, and the black community is not even on its feet yet. And then they've given women this new power. And now these women are just taking off with it because, the black community was a matriarchy since slavery. So now you're in this situation where women were literally teaching their daughters to be strong, to be independent, to really not so much independent, it was really just teaching them to lead. That's really what they were doing. They were teaching their daughters to lead. Because they recognize that I can't depend on the man. I want the man, but I can't depend on the man. And because I can't depend on him because he can be killed or he can be caught, by the cops or whatever it is, it creates a different mindset. So now, we fast forward, 2 full generations. Like I said, I don't know if you want to say 20 years as a generation or 25 years as a generation, but either way, we should be 2 generations in now. And what people generally do is they teach their children what they learned or what they thought or their worries, their fears, their concerns. That's why you have women today that are still talking about they're independent, even though every man, from 55 down, which is most of the dating community, most of us have lived in an environment where women were always independent. And that is literally like me saying, even though I've been free, for over 100 years, it's like me walking around saying, well, I'm free now. I'm not a slave. But it's that pain that gets passed down into the daughter. And now, even though it's been 2 generations, the women still feel as though they have to teach their daughters to lead. Right? And the problem with this, and the reason why I believe it causes so many issues within the black community, is because there is a subset of black men that also were taught to lead. And then you have other men that have figured it out. They figured it out because we're in 2 generations now, where it's been 50 years. And you have more men out here, many of who are probably following me, who are still learning. They're still trying to learn how to lead. They're trying to learn, how do I become the man that I'm supposed to be? How do I walk in my full masculinity? What do I have to give up? What do I have to move to? And so now the power dynamic within the black community is changing. And then we also have to have that, that average stereotypical black. Because no matter what we want to say, we all kind of fall into this mindset where we actually believe that a good portion of the people out here are this stereotypical black. And then we feel isolated as black people if we don't lean in to that stereotypical black. So now you get all these things that are sitting on top, which for this particular lady, I don't know her background. I don't know anything about her. This is the first video that I'm watching. But from what I'm seeing, it seems that, she ain't super broke, So, she is doing decent. Probably the men that are around her are doing decent. And so those men who are now walking in their masculinity, who are now doing things for themselves, those men are basically first coming to black women and saying, hey, I can now be this husband to you, that many women say that they want. But then the women are saying, I don't want that from you. I don't want you to be a leader. I don't want you to be my protector. I don't want you to be my provider. And so it's basically an insult to masculinity. And we can't really get mad truly because we have to, like I say, fully understand all of these things. So now what's happened is these women, like on this channel, I call them instinct driven. So these instinct driven women are generally the prettiest women. Okay, they're generally the women that are out and about more. They're generally the women that the men come across more often. So now as they come across these women more often, they're believing that all black women act this way. But it's like I've talked about on this channel, you have quirky black women, you have artistic black women, you have nerdy black women, you have introverted black women. And a lot of times these black women don't get seen as much. They're not making a big of a ruckus. They're not going to the gym. They're still eating improperly because they're eating their emotions, right? And so now, even though those women are sweeter, more kind, more loving, the man's first move when these men are looking for women is I'm looking for someone who's attractive. That's the very first thing. But then when he gets around the woman and actually talks to the woman, he finds out, ooh, she one of those. She don't want me to lead her. She doesn't want me, to be walking in my full masculinity because that is going to affect, her own leadership. And now she wants to have a household where she has at least 50% of the power. But men who walk in their full masculinity, men who are really figured out life, they're not going to go for that. They want it to be at least 51% of the power goes to them. But it's like I've told women before, if that man is a servant leader, there's nothing to fear. Because a servant leader is going to lead you well, and under him, a woman is actually going to do less work than if she's trying to do it on her own.
So I think that to say something as trivial as our attitude is interesting. I asked him to elaborate more, and he said, well, black women have a lot of attitude. And I said, so other races of women. And let me just clarify that his friends date, these are black guys that refuse to date black women, and they only date white women. So I asked, well, why do they like to date white women? And he said, well, he just basically said, white women are easier to get along with. He said races other than black women.
Taking what I said earlier and bringing it forward, if a woman has been taught to be dominant, if she has been taught to lead, that is totally different energy than a woman that has been taught to support. When you're looking at, again, these men and women and trying to come into relationship, a lot of black women, I think, feel, kind of like a slap in the face because they've been taught to lead. They've been taught that if the man ain't doing it, that they have to kick in. And what a lot of men, like I say, these men that are walking in their masculine, that they're doing what they're supposed to do, and these become the men that are the most sought after by black women. These are generally going to be the black men that make the most money. If they make money, sometimes they'll work on their appearance. Over time, they will get, even if they were not good with women, they will become good with women because, like I say, it only takes about 1 or 2 years of practice, and then you start to figure it out no matter what guy is out there. And that's why I'm always telling you guys that watch me, if you do have problems with that, all you got to do is work on it, and it will become easier. It's just like any muscle, right? So what's happening is that these black men are just tired of trying to fight the fight. They're just not going to, they just feel like they're wasting too much time, where if they talk to 10 black women, 6 or 7 of them are basically saying, I want to be a leader. I do not want to basically be a supporter in this relationship. Instead, I want to lead. And when you're dealing with men, like I said, that are walking and doing what they're supposed to do, and you're getting more and more black men that are coming into this now, like I said, because we're 50 years away, from the ability for a man to protect his woman. It was almost interesting. I saw something recently during the pandemic. I don't know if many of you have saw this, or really paid attention. But during the pandemic, there was a lot of racial upheaval, all right, in this country, because we were all sitting at home, all watching TV, and a lot of police officers, they were showing that many of them, with these little cameras that they would have on, were actually hurting black men, and the black men were 100% innocent. 100% innocent. So black men doing absolutely nothing were being killed. So 50 years ago, black people would have just been in the house like, when we ever go get out of this? When is it ever gonna be, our time in this country? How dare, when is it? See, that would have been 50 years ago. And then right after that, you would have just saw a whole lot of people with picket signs, we shall overcome. People spitting in our face and all this other kind of stuff. Well, this time, you have black people that are judges. You have black people that are DAs. You have black people that are sheriffs. You have black people that have power. And so now it's a different world. And then when you had the younger millennials and then the Gen Zers, they don't know racism like that. They've never had racism like that. And so now when they're seeing it, they're emboldened, right? So now you would see these videos. You had Ku Klux Klan members on one side of the street and all these young black people on the other side of the street, and the young black people were not afraid. They were not afraid at all. Sometimes they would even be this close to each other. And they were not afraid. And see, that's what happens over time. See, God always sends situations that heal the wounds, but it takes time. It takes time to do this, right? So now, as these black men, like I said, are coming into this where they're not afraid anymore, they can protect their women. They can do all these things. And now they're basically asking black women, hey, why don't you be like all these other women? Allow us to turn the black community into a patriarchy and get it away from being a matriarchy. That way you can relax. But the problem is you have black women out here who are still living in the fear of their grandmother. And if they're not living in the fear of their grandmother, there's always that 1, 2, or 3 stories that they know, which basically makes them feel as though if I don't get mine, if I don't do this thing over here, if I don't do this thing over here, he might leave me. He might hurt me. He might put me in this bad situation. And it's always fear. It's never the true trust that this man that is with her is going to take care of her. And we could go back to who you're picking, and I always will say who you're picking is extremely important. But at the same time, even when women are picking men and they're saying, okay, I'm willing to be with this guy, and with women, for a lot of women that don't understand, they're like, well, now men pick women. That's not true. We both pick each other. A man can come up to you and he could try to talk to you, but you make the decision whether or not you're going to talk to him. So yes, you do pick. And if you in a grocery store and you're next to a guy that you want to talk to, you probably will naturally smile at him. It's like a natural occurrence. I mean, a lot of women don't even know that they're doing it. They will make eye contact and they will smile, and it's natural. So your natural way does pick men. All right. So let's not play this game. We have to think about that once you have been introduced to the man, once you're walking with the man, once you're talking with the man, do you want the man to lead you? And I think a lot of black women really need to ask that question. Because, see, there is no 50-50. And when I'm talking about 50-50, I'm not talking about this new crap that everybody's talking about with the money being 50-50. I'm not talking about that. I can do some videos on that. But what I'm talking about is the power in the house. And a lot of women, like I said, and even kind of, I think she's leaning towards, people are afraid to allow the man to be the man of the house. They're afraid of it. But in most other communities, the women are not afraid of it. They enjoy it. They love it. But a lot of black women, because they're not used to it, it's hard for them to see that this could be a good thing if they've never seen it, if they've never experienced it. I mean, I could talk all day about how great it is to be in hot springs. And we'll see movies with hot springs. And we'll see this, that, and the third with hot springs. But then there's been one movie, I forgot what it was called. I think Pierce Brosnan was in it. It was Dante's Inferno. I don't know exactly which one it was, but it was basically they had hot springs next to a volcano. And then when the volcano was erupting, okay, because that was the whole purpose of the movie, the people that were in the hot springs, because now the hot spring temperature jumped and they all boiled alive. And they couldn't get out in time. It was like, it really went from, whatever was the tolerable degree to boiling within like a second. So all the humans that were basically in there were boiled alive. So if a person has watched videos like that, movies like that over and over and over again, and then I come to them and I'm saying, hey, let's go to the hot springs, they're gonna be like, I ain't going to the hot spring. Why? Because what they've seen is people get hurt. And they've seen the worst case scenario, not recognizing that the likelihood that that would happen is probably literally 1 in 10 million. But they don't care because it's the fear that keeps them where they are. And because if they're in a situation where they have not seen other people that they can talk to, actually say something positive about it, it's easier for them to lean into their fear.
And as a black woman, I kind of want to explain on behalf of myself. I can't speak for all black women, obviously, because I'm one black woman out of millions. I think that black women in society have had to and continue to endure a lot. And, my dear friend Tommy Sotomayor, in one of his videos, I believe he said that that is not a sufficient enough excuse, to say, oh, black women, we have attitudes and we're angry because of everything that we've had to go through. But I think it's a combination of, a lot of black women, a lot of us are the heads of our households.
Okay, so she just said it. She actually said all the things that I was talking about. And remember, black women that are watching, what black men are saying is that you don't have to do these things anymore. So you've taken a cross upon your back that was never meant for you. And I think most healthy black men will basically say, we thank black women, for taking that cross upon their back for the 400 years that we were in America. But over the last 50 years, a lot of the black men are saying, black woman, take that cross off your back. You don't need it anymore. You don't need to say that we're struggling out here. You don't need to say that we have to be the head of the household. Black men are saying we will do that. We could not do that before. And now we are glad to do that. But unfortunately, because like I said, they've been doing it for so long, they don't trust the black man to do it. And I think what she is saying is, because that's what she's saying. She said, we struggling out here. We're doing. Are you really struggling? Are you really struggling? Because according to most media, and y'all know how I feel about media, most media will actually say that black women are doing it up. In fact, I could probably find 5 or 6 little videos that if I just want to do a quick run through, I could show all these black women, including Rebecca Lynn Pope, who basically said, and if you don't know who Rebecca Lynn Pope is, she's got this huge following. She's a dating coach for women. She mainly works with women. And she had this big thing. I actually have done several of her videos. And she literally said, black women are outpacing black men.
So Black women are excelling. They're getting accelerated degrees, graduate degrees, doctorate degrees. They're starting businesses. Black women are running circles around men.
And I've seen a couple other people say that. Black women are outpacing black men. So again, you got to figure out what side are you on. What is the real numbers? Now, over here, we always put up the real numbers. And when you really look at the real numbers, black women are not outpacing black men. Black men still make more money. They're still doing better. Okay. And this is no disrespect to black women. This is not a disrespect to black women. I'm just trying to make sure that we understand it. It's not this huge amount. It's not like black men are like 10 times more likely. No, it's not. It's nothing like that. It's more about, just maybe a couple of percentage points. So we're not talking about, something too crazy. But again, what crosses somebody puts upon their back is their choice. Is their choice. And even when it comes to racism, you can choose to live in a city that is dealing with a lot of racism, or you can move away from that city. You can, put yourself in a position where you learn and understand other things so that you can break some things off of you, or you can continue to sit in them. All right. Now, again, I don't have time to go over all that in this video. I've done it in a lot of my videos, but there's a lot that people can do. We can't keep falling behind that this whole world is against us and all this other kind of stuff. We can't keep doing that for the next 100 years.
We're raising children without a father figure, without the person that we made the child with. So we've had to be strong. We've had to be resilient.
A black woman says, I've had a kid with a man, to her point. See, she's saying that as a cross. That's a cross to her. I want to make sure that we all understand what she's saying. She's saying that's a burden that black women have had to carry. And a lot of what I talk about on this channel is that that's a burden you don't have to carry. You don't have to carry it. First of all, you should be cautious about who you're having sex with. That's number one. Number two, who you pick is very important to see whether or not the guy's going to stick around, if you're going to have all this premarital sex. Number three, you should be trying to get married if you can. And then number four, as you are going in, again, how much do you want this man to truly be the father? Because I'm going to be real. There are a lot of men, and I know me, I'll just be real. If I got with a woman and we had premarital sex and we had a baby, if that baby was a boy, okay, I understand women want to spend time with their kid and all this other kind of stuff. And if I was like, I'm not going to be with the mom, I decided, that's not going to be where we're going to be. Once the child turns like 6 or 7, I would want that child. I want that child with me. And most men that I know of, most of these men out here, I think a lot of them would agree. And you can show Paternity Court, you can show Maury, you can show all these shows where you have black men standing there almost in tears because they've been taking care of children that they love, that either the mom does not want them to take care of that child, or the mom lied and that was never their child. But again, even in those scenarios, the women knew who was a good man. They knew the good man versus the bad man. But they had lust for the bad man. So again, all this still goes back because this is the cross that you're putting upon your back that you don't have to put. You don't have to put that on your back. There are ways to get around that. And like I said, I can even say for my own self, if I actually had a son, especially, I want that son to be with me. And that's not a cross that a woman would actually have to bear. But if she's like, no, I want my son and all this other kind of stuff, now you're putting that cross upon yourself. And to be honest, if I could have both of my kids, all of my kids with me, I would want that. If I had a boy and a girl, like say if she had twins and it was a boy and a girl, I would want both of them with me. Okay, because again, I'm sorry. When I look at statistics and all this other kind of stuff, it works better. And then even if I go and I take statistics out, just like she believes she's probably the best, I believe I'm also the best. And so all of those things would have to, come out. But at the same time, again, there are men out there that will take that cross. They will take it. They don't care about child support. They want the kid. So again, if black women are like, no, I'm not giving my kids up, no, I'm not doing this, no, I'm not doing that, that's your cross that you have put on your own back. And again, I'm not against black women raising kids. And again, there's a lot of hope. And when I say that, I know somebody's going to try to beat me up in the comments because I'm not literally saying I'm encouraging single motherhood. What I am saying is, there might be certain situations. And so you have to, look at the situation at hand. But, a lot of this stuff,
We don't always have the chance to show our emotions and cry because a lot of times, like I said, we're the heads of the household. Our job is to remain strong. So in this attempt to remain strong, I think we've almost lost ourselves and we become too strong. We put on this tough exterior. And like Lauryn Hill said, don't be a rock when you really are, don't be a hard rock when you really are a gem. I feel like many black women have hardened and have become bitter because of everything that we've had to endure. You know, so many of our black men are incarcerated. Um, and we
I always hate that stat. Y'all know I hate that stat. It is less than 3% that are incarcerated. And I always want to make sure that people truly understand that. For every single heterosexual, not in jail black woman, okay, if you got 5 of those women, there are 4 men that are not in jail, that are not gay, that are heterosexual, blah, blah, blah. So the ratio is 4 to 5 or 5 to 4, however you want to look at it. But that is the ratio. In fact, it's a little bit better than that. Okay, because I've seen videos where they say 88 to 100. I've seen other videos that say 83 to 100. So that's why I say 4 to 5. So no, this whole incarceration thing, again, that is not true. That's just one of those things that media has been pushing for a long period of time because 3% is crazy because no other race has 3%. And that's why they like to say that. But in reality, that's not the reason why a lot of black women are having this burden. And we need to make sure that we truly understand all of this so we can get to the root of it.
are left to raise children on our own. So many of our black men are not faithful and not committed. So we are in a position where we have to raise.
I will agree with that one. I do say the whole faithful and committed thing. And I think a lot of black men today understand that. And that's why we have this whole concept of Pookie. So Pookie is basically that black man. He's generally the black man that was raised by a single mom who basically doesn't understand anything but to have sex, with black women. All right. Back in the day, back in the slave days, they would have called him a buck. All right. That's what they would have called him. He was going out there. He's going to be with the black women. He's going to make more babies. All right. Okay. That is who Pookie is. And the reason why, we bring that up is because a lot of women they've so sexualized Pookie and they're so in love with Pookie and what Pookie can do. And that's why so many people talk about him because it's very frustrating for a lot of black men, again, like I said, that are walking in their masculinity, they're doing what they're supposed to do. And they're basically being looked over for black women that are still going after the slave ways. And it's the whole concept of once you get to a point where you can eat good food, why do you still eat bad food? When you have the opportunity to live on the good side of town, why do you still enjoy living on the bad side of town? And that goes back to 2 proverbs. The first is, unfortunately, people return to their folly, just like a dog returns to his vomit. And then the second thing is raise up a child in the way that they will go, and they will never leave it. Neither good or bad, they will never leave it. So those 2 things are playing against a lot of black women because they now have much better men to choose from, but then they choose not to choose them.
Our children on our own. Everything that we've gone through, even beyond slavery, just the black woman goes through a lot. And as a black woman, I can say this: if you're not a black woman, sitting and looking from the outside in, it's easy to judge and say black men go through just as much. No, our struggles are not the same. We struggle, but the way that we struggle is different. So you can't demean and belittle what someone else is going through just because you don't understand it.
So I agree, with what she said, because I do believe that everyone's truth is their truth, right? And I do believe that. So I have to agree with the fact that I'll never truly understand what it's like to be a Black woman. However, I've been around lots of different types of Black women from lots of different socioeconomic classes. And what I've learned is there are certain things that are lining up with women and with men where you can almost tell what their life's going to be like. All right? I can almost tell it. Like, for instance, I actually have, nieces, nephews, cousins, and other people like that. And even when I was working in the church, I actually worked in the middle school ministry. So I've been around a lot of young people. Okay. And I've been around those that have come from, two parent households, those that have come from interracial parent households, those that have come from single parent households, those that have lived in the suburbs, those that have lived in the city, those that have had a challenge where their mom didn't have a lot of money, those people that had a lot of money on the other side. All right. And I think a lot of people, when they do statistics, they're also looking at a lot of this information. And what you see over and over and over again is that when women, I don't care what race they are, when women do not have the desire, and like I say, I'm not beating up on the women that do have this desire, but I need to make sure I'm making it clear, all right, for this video. The women who do not have the desire for upward mobility, and they actually desire a man to basically be their leader, and for a man to take care of things, for a man to truly be the protector, provider, leader. This doesn't mean they don't work. This does not mean that they want the man to do everything for them. But what they're saying is, I don't want to lead. I do not want that burden upon me. When those women, okay, that are walking in that energy and they keep themselves up to the point where they're at least a 7 out of 10 to the average man, and they actually are kind women, okay, those women, I rarely see them in situations where they cannot get married. It's rare, extremely rare. And when I see even dark-skinned women, because a lot of people want to put colorism on it, even when I see dark-skinned women that have actually followed that pattern, I rarely see them having a hard time finding a man if their options are open. Now, when they close their options and their options are very narrow, they do have problems. But if their options are open, they generally don't have problems. When I see women, okay, who believe that there's a time of life to have fun and party and do things on your own, I see problems with those women, where those women have a much more difficult time getting married. When I see women, okay, who want to push, like I say, their family, they want children, they want lots of children, they want to be, like I say, with that man, they tend not to have problems. But when you have a woman who is upwardly mobile, who wants to be an achiever in life, so she wants the Oscar, she wants the Emmy, she wants to own her own business, she wants to be the captain of a ship, she wants to be the first XYZ type of woman, to fly around the globe. When she is success driven, okay, and over here we would say instinct driven, those are the women who have it the most difficult. And the reason why is because those traits, even though Proverbs 31 woman would be instinct driven these days, but those traits are not desired by men. And this has nothing to do with Black women. Okay, I'm gonna put a picture up of Sandra Bullock because she's the one I use as an example. Okay, there is, even once you get beyond the whole concept of Black women, women in general around the world, okay, they struggle. They struggle because men don't really appreciate that. And because women generally don't want to date men that make less than them and that have less success than them, it puts those women in a very narrow pool of men. But men don't care about those things. So men are an exact opposite. So if you're dealing with the types of women that Rebecca Lynn Pope talks about, or that Ebony K. Williams talks about, they're basically talking about the top 3 to 4% of all Black women. and all black men. They're just talking about the top 3 to 4%. That's why I tell most of the black women that follow me, you really don't have to worry about, success. When people talk about success and all other kind of stuff, you really don't have to worry about that, because really what those women are talking about is like the top 3 to 4%. Now, again, I am not up there. Maybe one day God will bless me to be up there. But here's the thing. If I am up there and I'm around Ebony K. Williams and around all these women that Rebecca Lynn Pope talks to, when I am talking to those women still have to do the same things that I've always wanted to do. If I am coming in as a leader, I am looking for them to give me that opportunity to lead the household. And if they say no, that that's not what they want, then that's fine. I'm not mad at them. I'm not angry with them. I don't think less of them. I'm just basically saying that is their energy. But just like they're trying to date in this very narrow group of about 3 to 4% of all black men or all men, period, because, it could be white men or Asian men or whatever, the men that are up there are dating opposite, because men don't care that much about, what a woman does and how much she makes. So now, even if I'm at that top 3%, I'm actually dating 97% of the women. And at that point, it's a totally different group of people. I have so many more I can pull from. So we have to look at all of these things. And that's why I say the women who are upwardly mobile, those are the ones who have it the hardest. And unfortunately, those are the ones that control black media. And so they keep pushing the narrative that black women are struggling out here. They are the ones that keep pushing that narrative. All right, because they are affected by it. And because they're sitting around and they're like, all my girlfriends are affected, all my girlfriends are affected. They're assuming that the black woman who makes $80,000 a year is affected in the same way, and she's not.
And it's also shown in research that women want to marry on their same level of financial and educational status.
Yeah.
So if you're a black woman making $150,000 a year with a master's degree, you tend to want to marry a black man on that same level or higher.
Okay, that woman that makes 80 might be affected, but she's affected differently. All right? And then once you start to put in men, like I've always talked about with men, the men who have it the hardest are the ones who are a little bit softer, who are a little bit more romantic, who are a little bit more where they just kind of want to chill and let somebody take care of them. Okay, unless they're just really attractive or something like that. Those men have it the hardest. And on here, that's why I call those heart-based men. All right, they tend to have it the most difficult. All right, so men do have their own hardships, but their hardships are different. It's the exact reverse of the hardships of women. But when you start to break it down about all these black men that are not dating black women, again, it's about who they're around, who they're talking to, who they can get to, all this situation. And see, the problem is, like I said, we live in a society where we really are almost having two heads, and you can't have two heads. And so you have, and she kind of said it, black women trying to head a household, and you got black men trying to head a household. And black men that have done their work, that have their stuff together, they're not going to settle by actually becoming second, because they know they can go to other women, and I'm not even going to say other races, okay? Because a lot of black men, and again, I think she might have made this video without respect to like the passport bros, but a lot of passport bros are not going into Europe. It's not like they up in Sweden, okay? Or, and all this other kind of stuff. No, they're down in Brazil. They're down in Colombia. They're over in Nigeria. They are in places where there are black-looking people that come from Africa. Because like I've tried to tell, black women before, black men love black women. They are very attracted to black women. And I'm not to say that some of them are not attracted to light-skinned or white women or whatever. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the majority of them are attracted to melanin. Different amounts, but they're attracted to melanin. And so a lot of these crosses that I think the modern woman is dealing with is because she's been trained in her instinct energy. And the only way to get around, if you are a woman right now, you're watching me, don't get mad. I'm going to teach you how to get out of it in the last few seconds of this video. In order to get out of it, what you have to do is you have to humble your heart. That's number one. You have to humble your heart because arrogance goes with being instinct type. The two just go together. All right. I mean, I know it, like I said, I'm a little bit of an instinct type. So I understand it. So that's number one. You have to humble yourself. And then the next thing you have to do is you have to put your family, and that includes your husband and your children. You have to put your family first. That's it. Put them first, not second. And especially with your husband is not second in your life. But after God, your husband is first. So if you're dealing with a boyfriend, if you're dealing with a relationship where you just started dating, if you're dealing with, all this kind of stuff, yes, in the first 90 to 120 days, yeah, this guy that's in front of you, you ain't trying to do nothing extra for him because you don't know him. But once you know him and you see him as a good man, you should start to lean more and more towards putting him first. And when you put him first, you're putting yourself second. And then if you found a good one, he is going to put you first. And he's going to put himself second. All right? And then when you start to allow him to lead you, okay, and trust his leadership, and some of the instinct-driven women, I'm always telling them, if you have a problem with this, count to 100 in your head. So when you ask him to make a decision, count to 100 in your head. All right? To give him time to actually come up with a solution. Because most men will try to figure out a solution. That's what we are. Most of us have been trained to be problem solvers. All right? So those are the things you do. And if you do that, I guarantee you that you will find a lot more men than what you thought were out here. But you have to do that. And if you are a supporting type and you really know you want a man to lead you, you want a man to take care, you don't really have to worry about it. At that point, you just have to pick well. All right. And again, for everybody watching, whether you're male or female, talk is cheap. Okay. The train has to be moving. All right. The train of the person's life has to be moving in whatever direction they say they're going to do. So when a woman says, I am going to be supportive, I'm going to be loving, I really appreciate you, whatever she says, if that train ain't moving, she ain't real. She lying. She talking about. If a man is like, I'm ambitious, I want to do this, I'm building this business. If that train ain't moving, he lying. That's garbage. So the train has to be moving. The person has to be doing. They have to be in the process of doing. Even God looks at it from the point of a process of doing. God does not send you blessings when you're sitting around saying, oh God, well, if you bless me with $1 million, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do all this charity work. No. God is like, you do the charity work. Let me see how you do it. Let me see how you gain experience. Let me see how you learn to understand it. And then maybe if I feel you can handle it in the second, third, fourth year, or whenever it is, I feel like it, I might deliver you $1 million. But he ain't going to give you $1 million unless you're in it. And that's how this thing works. Everybody that talks has to be in it. And if you don't know how to be in it, you practice, you do your best. You take every opportunity to practice it, to get it to work, and to do the thing. Anyway, thought this was a great video. She says Janice, I see Janice, but you see her stuff, or you saw her stuff on the screen for the whole time. Anyway, there's stuff down there in that description, lots of books and different things like that about marriage, because that's what I'm all about. Please hang with me if marriage is something you're concerned about. And I do encourage you always to watch all the videos, because I almost always go off topic and, go into different, variations of things. Anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.